Good afternoon, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here nationwide at 5. I'm Cliff Hughes.
And I'm Chevon Campbell.
Good afternoon, Mr. Campbell.
Good afternoon, Sir Hughes.
Good. Well, in our cover story, Outgoing Commissioner of Police, Major General Antony Anderson, is at this hour handing over command of the Jamaica Constabulary Force to his successor, Dr. Kevin Blake. That ceremony currently underway at the Commissioner's office on Old Hope Road in St. Andrew. Deputy Commissioner of Police Blake, who's in charge of the force development and logistics portfolio, will become the next native or the 15th native Jamaican to hold the post of Commissioner of Police. This afternoon, we'll look back at the time in office of Major General Anderson. Dana Davey has that story.
Major General Antony Anderson took the helm of the JCF in March 2018. He succeeded George Coelho, who resigned in February that year. Major General Anderson was appointed as National Security Advisor to Prime Minister Andrew Holness in 2016. He held that post for 2 years. As National Security Advisor, he was responsible for coordinating security activities across government and liaison with overseas security and intelligence entities. Major General Anderson is a former Chief of Defense Staff of the Jamaica Defense Force, JDF. He served the JDF for 34 years. At the time of his appointment to Police Commissioner, the Police Service Commission, PSC, said Major General Anderson demonstrated the ability to lead the JCF at an important point of transformation. Major General Anderson spoke with Nationwide News on his first day as Commissioner on March 19, 2018. At the time, he said he wanted to transform the image of the JCF by making it trustworthy.
My intention really is to work with the force to move it from where it is on all these indices that is suggesting that it's not trusted and not credible to a position where it's trusted and credible. And that's what a police force should and must be.
There was no official swearing-in ceremony in 2018, as is the custom for incoming police commissioners. Major General Anderson said such a ceremony would have been a distraction from the prevailing duties, and he wanted to hit the ground running.
The force is heavily deployed at the moment. And the thing with the pomp and pageantry, you have to take a lot of people off of what they're doing to come and do that. And then you have to rehearse it so many times to get it right that I saw more value in just getting to work.
He also said he was ready to lead the JCF in properly targeting the major issues of public disorder and gang violence.
The fact of the matter is we have to align our resources with our problem in a more effective way. And there are two large areas of focus, one being public order generally, the other one being gangs, guns and murders.
Since then, the JCF says Major General Anderson has been instrumental in modernizing the physical infrastructure, acquiring major equipment and developing personnel to create a more flexible capability-driven force. The JCF also says he has improved their communication strategy to engage the wider population while repositioning internally and externally as a force for good with officers that adhere to the rule of law and show respect to all. Dana Davey for Nationwide at 5.
Thank you, Dana. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says he hopes Major General Anderson will continue to serve Jamaica. He sent a pre-recorded message to the handing over ceremony currently underway at the Commissioner's office.
Jamaica is very privileged to have someone of the caliber and standing of Major General Antony Anderson. I've seen General Anderson perform in many roles, in particular in his role as Chief of Defense Staff. He served as our first National Security Advisor and then took on the enormous role of Commissioner of Police. He is a very strategic person. Obviously, his military training, but his temperament and character is such. And he plans ahead. He's very thoughtful and very thorough. I've also seen him operate on the international platform where he is highly respected by his peers and colleagues. I believe that he has conducted himself well. He has served Jamaica well. He leaves the force better than he found it, with many institutional changes and developments. And he can be proud of what he has achieved. I believe most Jamaicans would feel that way. I want to wish him all the best in his future endeavors, and we hope, yes, we do hope that he may find it possible to continue to serve Jamaica.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness in that recorded message at the function currently underway at the Commissioner's office on Old Hope Road in St. Andrew, where command of the JCF is being handed to Dr. Kevin Blake. Well, we have our reporter Mahiri Stewart at that function. Mahiri, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sir Hughes. Good afternoon, Chevon. Good afternoon to our listeners and our viewers.
Tell us, did the Prime Minister in any way expanded on that comment that he hopes Major General Anderson will continue to serve his country?
I'm afraid not. It seems as though he's left us on a cliffhanger, and it's quite a cliffhanger because we know there have been rumblings of a potential role as ambassador, but what you heard is what I heard as well. There was nothing more. So I guess we just have to nibble on that last piece until something's announced in the future.
Yes. And in terms of the flow of the function so far, is it now officially Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't think so, because at the time I left, Dr. Horace Chang was giving a speech. I had to step out in order to be able to go on the call, but definitely not as yet.
Okay.
But it is still taking place right now. A lot of high-profile names are indeed here.
Among them?
Oh, I'm seeing Dr. Horace Chang, our National Security Minister, Senator Peter Bunting, our opposition spokesperson on security. The DPP is here, Paula Llewellyn, Ambassador Rocky Mead, and obviously Major General Antony Anderson and Dr. Kevin Blake are here as well.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mahiri. Stick with it. We're coming
Thanks,
back to you a
sir.
little later. Well, we're going to go to the break now. After the break, we're going to look back at the time of General Anderson, the last 6 years as Commissioner of Police, where that Professor Anthony Clayton, Chairman of the Board of Jamaican Sir Justice John Clarke, and retired Senior Superintendent of Police Radcliffe Lewis.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good evening, Chevon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Clayton.
Yes.
Good evening, Chevon.
Good afternoon. Let me begin with you, SSP Radcliffe Lewis. Your assessment of the 6 years over which the retiring CP led the JCF.
Well, I think that the Commissioner has done a good job, and he was on his way in bringing the force to first world standard. Under his stewardship, there were less police confrontation. The force is in the process of being fully computerized, and less demonstrations by citizens against police excesses. He was instrumental in getting a lot of vehicles for the force. He was also instrumental in getting modern equipment to assist police investigators in their investigations. You were at the expo in New Kingston to view the equipment. He increased the capacity of the force in terms of getting more personnel, because at one time that was a problem for more persons to be employed as police officers, and he broke the barrier in getting more police officers. In a sense, he did a good job. The only problem I saw was his inability to have a foothold on the crime and violence, and in particular murder.
John Clarke, you have had your run-ins with the Jamaica Constabulary Force as the chairman of JFJ. The force now, as it is, under Mr. Anthony Anderson, how does it stand?
Well, I've listened carefully to what SSP Lewis has said, and I know that in the space of 6 years, a lot was done by the outgoing commissioner, and a lot more is left to be done. And because the one issue that SSP Lewis identified, which I'm sure many Jamaicans will agree with, is that we want to see this monster called crime under control. And it seemed that the time period, 3-year contract, which amounted to two such contracts for this commissioner, seemed very short, and a lot has to be done within that short time period. So one hopes that the incoming commissioner will somehow be able to continue the good that was done under this current commissioner, and will be able to chart his own way forward to deal with this monster called crime.
Mm-hmm. And you, Professor Clayton, your assessment?
I think that Tony Anderson has done a really outstanding job. I think when we look back, we will actually see his tenure as the point at which the JCF started its transition from being a traditional police force to a modern police service. Tony Anderson put through over 20 major reforms, many of which have not yet fully borne fruit. But Kevin Blake was instrumental in helping to chart those reforms. So I'm quite confident that he will be a very good successor and will take those reforms forward.
And now for Dr. Blake, Professor, yes, taking those successes forward. But the big issue, yes, the bear in the room is murder. Murder rate in Jamaica continues to be at an intolerably high level.
It is. It's still one of the highest in the world. And homicide rates have been trending down globally since the mid-1980s. There are only about 20 countries of which that is not true. And unfortunately, we're one of the leaders in that group. The problem that we have is that the culture of violence has become very deep-rooted. And it's a culture which is going to be very difficult to re-engineer. Once a culture of violence has been established in society, it is extraordinarily hard to change. It's something that has to happen usually over at least 1 or 2 generations. Kevin knows this. He knows that the police can't do this unaided. Other government agencies have to play their role. He's a very good, a brilliant strategic thinker. And I think he will be the man who will be able to knit together the approaches that will be needed to actually address not only the gang problem and the gun import problem, but will also be working with other agencies who will be looking at the roots of violence and doing something to prevent the way that violence cycles down the generations.
Mm-hmm.
Radcliffe Lewis, what role does the police commissioner play in terms of shaping the political discourse around Jamaica's crime fight? One of the criticisms leveled at Anthony Anderson was his public support for states of public emergency and other policies put forward by the Andrew Holness administration. Is this something that an incoming commissioner should avoid, or do you feel that is well within the remit of the police commissioner?
Well within the remit of the police commissioner. And some people that he call him the commissioner for the SOE. But the SOE is something that is very important. When you will understand and you know when it first came in. I think some 2 years ago, most of our criminals were found, run away and were found in Costa Rica. But after the SOE was watered down and caused it to become a toothless bulldog, then the crime, it almost don't have any use anymore. I would want this state of emergency to upgrade it to its original state and move the toothless bulldog. And even give the bulldog false teeth now, because the teeth has already taken off. So you have to give him false teeth so that the crime and violence can go back down.
And Anthony Clayton, this transformation of the JCF from a standard constabulary force to a police service, have you seen the evidence of this now coming at the end of the police commissioner's term?
Yes, I have. It's still early days, but there's been a huge investment in training, and we've got a new generation of officers coming through who have much more technologically savvy, and in many ways Kevin Blake really is the first generation of one of the new intake that's gone all the way through. He's educated to the highest level, and of course he's also got a very strong background in computer science. He understands data analytics in policing, and he knows that we need to be very data-driven in terms of understanding the trends, getting to the roots of the problem, and allocating resources to where they will do the most good, and then monitoring and tracking progress so that resources can be reallocated if necessary. What Tony Anderson has done is create a larger, more skilled, and better trained police force, and he has done a great deal to emphasize that police officers have to treat every member of the public with respect and with regard for their human rights. Now, I know that we still have a long way to go, and I know that this force is still not perfect, far from it, but we have come a far way.
Well, John Clarke, I know JFJ has had its issues with the police force in the past. Have you seen those issues at least smoothed over under the tenure of Anthony Anderson? Do you feel confident that the force now is a force for good versus your concerns about the JCF in the past?
Well, the concerns that we would have would be informed by the actions of one or two often bad actors whose actions somehow reflect badly on majority of good members of the force. Well, I heard Professor indicate that he has seen some actions that the force has been transformed or is transforming into service. We have not seen those actions or any evidence of that on the ground. Whilst we know the improvement in technology, one of the biggest concerns is the system in which JCF deals with complaints and how quickly and effective that system is and how transparent that system is something that we appreciate, bearing in mind how many different tasks the Commissioner had to undertake in the last 6 years may not have received the level of priority that we believe is necessary, and one hopes that somehow that will be receive some renewed focus, and then we can really see and feel that the Jamaica Constabulary Force will completely be revolutionized into what is really a modern-day police service.
Okay.
Chevon.
Go ahead.
Yes, Radcliffe.
Listen, when this incoming police commissioner, Mr. Blake, Dr. Blake, he will murder is the motorcyclists and pillion. They are the main cause of our murders now. And I have been on this station here telling them about how it must be done. And the murders cannot happen without a pillion, because the rider two hands are occupied. On the right hand, it is the gas and the clutch. And the left hand, it is the brake. So he cannot use any hand to fire. If he use the right hand, the bike cannot move. And if he use the left hand, it still cannot move. So the pillion is the man who is the murderer. And all they have to do is to ban all pillion passengers. The only place you wouldn't ban it is in Westmoreland. The fact that they use it there to do bike taxi. But you must also go there, speak to them, warn them, tell them if any bike taxi involved in murders or shooting, then their trade is no more. But you have to warn them. That is one of the serious concerns that the commissioner will have to deal with. The other serious concern is that the operations portfolio will have to be reorganized, because as I see it, they are the belly and the engine of the force. They are responsible for all operational activities, and I have it now that they have failed us.
Oh. That's retired Senior Superintendent of Police Radcliffe Lewis. as well as Chairman of the Board of Jamaicans for Justice, John Clarke. Thank you. And Professor Anthony Clayton of UWI Mona. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Oh, okay, sir.
Thank you. Thank
Good,
you.
good. And we can now tell you, Mahiri is reporting that Dr. Kevin Blake is the new Commissioner of Police. He has been officially sworn into office moments ago.